Up next on Inspiring Beauty and Believers.
Me that it was my job to make sure everybody else was good, which
Mm.
caused me a lot of times to not even consider myself. Like I will put myself to the back burner. And I think that's a huge thing with people who deal with codependency is they don't, instead of dealing with fixing their own issues, they push their stuff to the back burner and jump on fixing other people's issues. Is that
It's
Right.
easier.
not correct? All right, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Welcome back to Inspiring Beauty and Believers. I am Song, and today we are going to have a great conversation. We are going to be talking about codependency and women. And this is something that's been heavy on my heart, especially last year when it was revealed to me during my own therapy session that that was something that I struggled with, codependency. I never even heard of the word before that. So as I started researching those things and really breaking it down and finding out how it linked back to my childhood, it was something that I really wanted to talk to with all of you guys and help you to understand and navigate through that so that you can heal too. So today I'm just going to be narrating or mediating, whatever it's called, moderating.
Facilitating.
I'm going to moderate this conversation, but I brought in the professionals that can really help us to understand what codependency is and that can break it down so that you know and that you are able to get some help. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have Miss Diane here, Miss Fahja, and Miss Sam or Samara. And all of these, I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you their background and why they are the professionals today. So we'll start with Miss Diane.
Hi, everyone. Super happy to be a part of this panel of professionals. My name is Diane Stephens-Smith, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and outpatient therapist. And I have a background in trauma-informed therapy, substance abuse. I'm also CSEC certified. I work with a menagerie of mental health conditions. I also specialize in domestic violence issues, working with both the victim as well as the perpetrators.
Awesome. And Fahja.
Hey, everyone. Hi, I am Fahja, Fahja Bey. I am a qualified mental health professional, also a life coach, also a facilitator for NAMI, family to family and family support groups. I work with individuals, not only with mental illnesses, but also with ID or intellectual and developmental disabilities, and teach Bible studies, mentor children or young adults, just the whole gamut of things. I'm just like, the every woman.
Yes, just a
knows I
little bit
got-
everywhere.
Yeah, I'm all over the place, but I am glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Samara.
Hi, I'm Samara Cerven. I am a clinical psychologist. I have a background in trauma work, especially with the younger ones. I prefer the 0 to 18 group. I have dabbled a little bit of training in Aboriginal focused CBT, so trauma focused CBT with Indigenous populations. Obviously EMDR, trauma focused CBT. I did a lot of work, mostly with children who have been victims of physical and sexual abuse and assault, and working within that system. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Shami.
Thank you. So, as you guys can see, they are truly the professionals in this. And so my first question is, can any of you, and feel free, anybody can answer, any of you explain in a way that all of us can understand, what is codependency?
Well, codependency is an imbalanced relationship where one person enables another, whether it's through enabling addiction, poor behaviors, mental health concerns, even immaturity. Sometimes we enable immaturity, irresponsibility, or even underachievement. So that's just kind of a broad definition of what codependency looks like. Basically, it's an excessive psychological reliance on another person, typically when one requires support on the account of their pathological condition.
Yeah, there's also an inequity of power within that relationship. So one person almost typically always holds more power than the other. And it's not necessarily a diagnosis either. I think people sometimes, at least in my experience, have come in and say, I think I have a codependency diagnosis. And it's like, there's no such thing. Stop reading things on the internet.
Problem, right?
Right. But there is a lot of codependency. There is a lot of root in attachment work. So attachment from childhood and attachment styles grows into codependency in adulthood.
Okay, so I will share my experience of me coming to understand this a little more. Being in a relationship or multiple relationships, because I can't say it's just one, I realized that I draw people who seemingly need a lot of work. And somewhere inside of me, I feel like I can help them. I can fix them. I can, make them a better person. And so I go into the situation and I'm trying to help them be better, or whatever the situation is. And last year I was having a conversation and the person said, it was my coach, she said, why do you feel like you need to fix? Did they ask you for your help? Did they tell you that they needed you to jump in and save them in this situation? And I'm like, well, no, but I know the answer and I can help them with this issue. But when I started to trace this stuff back with my therapist, I realized as I was growing up as a child, not having that parent-child relationship, my parents oversaw things and made sure that we were, provided for, protected and everything, and emotionally, not just physically, but emotionally. I jumped in to carry a lot of that stuff because I was the oldest. And so it was required of me to make sure that my younger siblings were taken care of, make sure, everything was good for them. And then looking at my parents and knowing that they needed help with things and they couldn't handle things, it took on inside of me that it was my job to make sure everybody else was good, which caused me a lot of times to not even consider myself. Like I will put myself to the back burner. And I think that's a huge thing with people who deal with codependency is they don't, instead of dealing with fixing their own issues, they push their stuff to the back burner and jump on fixing other people's issues. Is that correct?
It's always, of course, it's always easier to look outside of yourself, because if you look in the mirror, then you have to really deal with who's present. It's just like you look at yourself and you're like, let me give you a story, quick story. I remember one time I was at work and I walked into the bathroom and they had these huge mirrors on the wall, and I heard the voice of God said, you have some anger issues. And I'm looking all around like, who are you talking to? Who, me? So I went to the mirror. I remember this like it was yesterday. This is probably like 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, I was stunned. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, what am I going to do? Like, how do and I was willing at that point to put in some work, like, because I was like, I don't want to be the angry one. Everybody thinks I'm a happy person. Everybody looks to me to be Miss Sunshine. I was like, so what am I supposed to do? So he was like, well, just, stick with me. I'll help you. But, it was a long process. But a lot of people are not willing
processes.
to It really is. It really is. So it's easier because if you really know, if you know yourself, or take the time to know yourself, then you know some of your weak areas. But when someone else points it out to you, especially him, because he knows everything, for me, it gave me, I paused. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? You know, but a lot of people won't do that. They're like, well, so-and-so is worse than me, and they did this, and what about? So it's a process, and it's a long process if you're willing to do the work, definitely. So it's easier to point the finger at someone else than yourself. Absolutely.
And like you said, Song, growing up, you felt, either inadequate or what have you. And as you grew up, you developed this neediness, the need to fix others, and like you two were just explaining, that can play out, or, the behaviors of trying to be there to fix other people, or the people pleasing behaviors, wanting that acceptance, the need to be accepted, for whatever reason, whether, it was due to the abandonment issues, rejection, all of that, so we now feel that need to fill the void. And
Right.
sometimes that void is filled by, focusing on other people, or trying to attach ourselves to relationships, not necessarily healthy ones, and it, at the end of the day, the core of it is pretty much a low sense of self and not knowing who you are. It's an identity issue. That's really the core of it. It's an identity issue.
Right.
And there's, an abandonment wound from childhood. So the buzz phrase is inner child wounds, and not everyone quite always understands what that means. But that abandonment wound grows that need for codependency. You don't want to feel left out. You always want to help. You want to people please. And you normally attract people that are unavailable, because from childhood, you felt there's that abandonment. So now you want to fill that need at all times, which also coincides, with the neglect wound of like the low self-esteem and getting angry easily, and trying to make sure everyone likes me at all times and needs me at all times, and that need and sense of control. So I can't control this. I can't control that people didn't like me. I can't control that people were more focused about themselves versus me as a child. So how do I get older and then control? And it kind of turns into this weird dance, which I think Shawnee kind of touched on a little bit when she mentioned it, of I knew I could do it better, so let me just do it. Let me just do it. And there's this kind of self-righteousness too that comes a part of it, where I'm better than you in this, so let me do it. And then the other person, and that just breeds more resentment and more codependency.
Yeah, it's a cover.
Right.
We wear it like a coat, and even sometimes those, those insecurities, it can go either way. It can come across as insecurity or pride.
Yes.
And that's just a cover. But it's those unresolved emotional wounds. If you look at this thing as it relates to, like you said, Song, women, because we're the ones who are tend to be the caretakers of the world. Women have traditionally been the caregivers in society. We teach our girls young to grow up, as those caretakers of the world, and to be supporters of their partners, and to be unconditional with their love, and sometimes to a fault. No, just hang in there. You stick in there, and all of that. These codependent behaviors and traits sometimes arise, from culturally approved and encouraged gender stereotypes and norms. We teach gender roles early. Whether we do it intentionally or unintentionally, and women, girls become what others expect of them, instead of living out their predestined purpose, because it's an identity issue.
Right.
We're the natural nurturers, and we become consistent caretakers and damage dependents.
Yeah. But people, we only like our grandparents or great grandparents, because I spent a lot of time with my great grandparents. But they only teach. People can only teach what they know. So those roles have been handed down, and I remember my great grandmother was always in the kitchen, always in the kitchen. And my great grandfather was always on the porch, smoking his cigar or whatever. And I learned to cook, to take care of people, watching my great grandmother, watching my grandmother. She took care of took care of everyone. So that was but one of the things though, my mother, on the other hand, she was like, no, whatever you need, I'll give you what you need, but whatever you want, you got to work for it. So I learned a different work ethic from my mother. So it was not diametrically opposed to what my grandparents were teaching me, but she was like, there's another way to do it. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be dependent on anyone. So I grew up with, mixed signals.
Or balance.
Right. It was just like, okay, wait, what do you mean? So should I do what? So should I work, or should I stay home and take care of the kids and the family and everybody else and cook for everybody and do? So I had to learn the balance. I love to cook, but you gonna learn how to eat leftovers. Don't like leftovers. If you don't like leftovers, sorry, about to luck. You better learn how to cook. So that's what I taught my son. It's just like, you can't depend on me to do everything for you. I need you to learn how to do these things for yourself. Figure out, like you said, Diane, the balance. I had to figure it out. And a lot of people get mixed signals. They watch TV, they watch social media. Good grief! And if you're not rooted and grounded, you they end up, in your office.
I see them every day.
They end up in your offices, so it's just like, you got to figure it out. But how do you figure it out? So that, I think that's one of the questions that we're left with. It's just like, okay, so how do I figure it out? Who's going to help me? What do I do?
Yeah. And which is why we're having this discussion right now.
Exactly.
To bring awareness. You can't change what you aren't aware about. You got to be aware.
Right.
That's the start of change right there.
Yep. That's it.
I had just did a podcast episode last week or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember, but it was on basically the same concept and notion, like the duality of women, and how sometimes we get stuck in this femininity and masculinity dance of, I want to work, but I've also have this nurturing piece, and I've also been told I'm supposed to cook and clean, and it's like, I can't do all of the things. And I like to tell people that there's a work-life integration versus balance, because I think when we try to use the word balance, we try to make everything equal, and it's just impossible. And so how do you integrate work and life together? Because some days work is going to need more, and some days your home life or your personal life is need more. But if we always try to be in this, let's keep it balanced, we're always going to be trying to find that missing piece. And then that just breeds more of the self-talk, the inner negative self-talk of I'm not doing it, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not living up to certain expectations that we put on ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. That's true. And it's that word is relative, depending on that person, their background, what's going on with them. It's about trying to discover your authentic self. Because we're not saying that we shouldn't cook and clean and serve our family members, and that's not what we're saying here, for the viewers. What we're saying is become your authentic self, because it shouldn't hurt being you.
Yes. Right.
That's it. Say that again.
Good. It shouldn't hurt being you. I just had to say that.
It should not hurt being you. Yes.
Hear it. It was really good.
Woo! Yes.
So
that's
something
Mic drop.
Something that when Samara was speaking, it reminded me about some of the things that she said in the video I put out in March for Women's History Month, and she was just expressing how you can be the CEO of a company and then you can still come home and be, you know, the wife and the caretaker. You don't have to be either or. It's, you know,
right.
In my book, Growing Pains, I talked about the superwoman syndrome, where we felt like we have to carry on everything of the world and we have to do all this other stuff. And that leaves us burnt out because we're trying to be everything to everybody else. And we're not being our authentic self to say, I don't have to do all of this stuff by myself. And something that was really freeing to me, because if any of you have ever grown up in church or even have ever heard of the Proverbs 31 woman, we talk about how you have to be this woman, and she did all of this stuff. And the key part that the Lord showed me, and it like freed me, was she had servant people. She said she woke up in the morning and she told her servant people what they needed to do. And I said, that is freeing for me. That means I don't have to do this by myself. I can
have to delegate.
That's it. Delegate. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, today you're going to do blah, blah, blah. That's right. That's right. You can't.
But see, that's godly wisdom, though. You know your part, know your place, know your role. You know what I'm saying? When we come out of our lane, we can easily get hit and get hurt.
Yes.
You know? Yes. So it's about knowing your place. You know, it's being your authentic self. Identity.
Sometimes we get lost in holding our boundaries because we're told that it's too aggressive or that it's not okay. Or what do you mean you're not okay and you don't want to do this today? You're supposed to do this. It's like, time out. I don't have to do anything. My mom told me this. I don't have to do anything in life but die. That's all I have to do.
Be black and die is what I was told.
I was about to say be black. Right.
That's all I have to do in life. Like, I don't have to take taxes. I don't got to do nothing. That's all you have to do. There's consequences, but that's all you have to do. And I was like, that's all I have to. Oh, well, okay.
That's right. That is absolutely right. Like you said, boundaries, you know, definitely this plays a major role in coming away from the codependency, you know, mindset when you establish healthy boundaries. And not just establish them, but maintain them, because boundaries keep you safe and it teaches other people how to treat you.
Correct. And you were saying earlier about the lane, stay in your lane. But if you notice, like if you're going to the store, you don't stay in one lane. You might switch lanes, but what do? You put on a signal. You let everybody know I'm changing lanes and I'm allowed to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm not staying in the right lane. I'm going in the left lane. Oh, wait, I'm making a U-turn. How about that? You know,
but you put a signal on.
But you let everybody know, hey, but if you're not paying attention, that's your fault. Just don't hit me. Just don't hit me. But you know, you put your signal on, let people know, okay, I'm changing lanes, and we're allowed to do that. Yeah. So today I might wear this. Okay. But tomorrow I'm wearing my real hair, you know, curl my hair. I could do that. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. Not sorry.
That's your problem.
That's right. Your problem. Don't make it be mine.
Yeah, right. You're allowed to do that without an explanation, because no is a complete sentence. By
itself, period. You must have read my book. Look. Because I sure got that in there.
Right.
It is. That's absolutely right. It's it does not require a comma nor semicolon. We do not have to give an explanation behind our nose. But you know how people say God won't put on you more than what you can bear. And people throw that out as a cliche all the time. And it's true, although true, but the problem is that we think that because we feel overwhelmed and stressed and all this weight, that you know, that's due to something else. No, it's us we're allowing the weight. We're allowing it. That it's true that God didn't do that. He didn't put on you that weight. We allowed it for ourselves. That's why he said to lay aside every weight that easily besets us, because he won't put on us more than we can bear. So when it starts to feel overwhelming and stress and all of that and depressed and all the rest, then we have to say to ourselves, okay, this is my alarm system, because that's